So I was watching the Jonathan Frakes and Brent Spiner, I think it's the name. The guy who played Data.
Yeah.
Their show now they have a podcast and YouTube show now. Okay. And it's interesting, man, how these two, like, if you want to talk about probably a TV show or era that affected me the most, I would say Star Trek Next Generation was like prime TV time for our age.
Yeah, I'll say that. I'll say like the whole like Star Trek Next Generation, X-Files.
Yeah.
Like that whole what's the one Red Rum. What was Twin Peaks? All those shows kind of set the bar for
Northern Exposure.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Quantum Leap.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
But anyway, so I'm watching them. They're old guys now, you know, and but they don't look that bad. I mean, you know, it's but anyway, and so they had Nathan Fillion on and Adam Turek, which Adam Turek, dude, he's amazing. That show Resident Alien is quite hilarious that he's in. But Firefly, of course, with Nathan Fillion and whatever. But anyway, so I was watching that dude. And it was just super cool to hear him talk about things. But what I didn't like about it is it almost was like an intentional episode to see how many names you could drop in an episode.
Fair enough. I've listened to some podcasts where it's like, I know this person and this person and this person. I'm like, dude, what about you two?
But I mean, I think they intentionally had a bell. Yeah. Like he had a little bell there. He would ding every time he said somebody's name or whatever. Yeah. So it was even it was like amplified, and you're like going, can you just talk about something instead of like your story about Barbara Streisand or your story of you meeting Clint Eastwood, or I mean, like I get those stories, but like every time you say their name, you're dinging this stupid bell.
I mean, if you just want to talk about people you've met, celebrity or not celebrity, you don't have to ring a bell, dude. Like
I don't know.
That seems very performative.
Oh, I was just watching it, and I'm going, I don't. It's not like I don't like the bell. It's just a matter of fact. I think it just highlighted their names. It was a little too much.
I'm going to be honest with you. I've lost faith in the Star Trek altogether because the new Star Trek has the first gay Klingon.
Like of all things you could possibly have.
Yeah.
No.
Why would you?
Work.
Here's the thing. Look, I get that there's going to be gay characters in shows. But Klingons are like kings of masculine battle murder. And now you decided we're going to have a gay Klingon.
But it doesn't work. That's weird. The thing. It does not work. It's the same thing like you said. There was, if you had in the movie 300, you had like a gay scene or something, you'd be like, that doesn't fit at all. Now, not that they probably would have done that.
Yeah, fair enough.
Back then,
the Athenians, they were boy lovers.
But anyway, it was interesting because they have like at that where they got like a whole crew. Mm-hmm. They got an actual set. They got like actual people here that are moving stuff around for them and doing things and editing it for them and everything else like that. And I was thinking like, we just sit here and do it ourselves. It's like what a difference it is when you're an actor and you're got the fame and blah 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 and they produce it and everything else.
And for me, I get frustrated because the podcast verse has become so flooded with performative podcasts that it's hard to find any podcast with substance anymore. I give credit. I mean, Joe Rogan from time to time will pull a good one out. He had Rachel Wilson on, who literally, if you get a chance to listen, she is an expert on the toxicity of the feminist movement. And she is about as anti-feminist as you will ever hear. And she lays down the best factual takedown jujitsu chokehold of feminism you will ever. And she doesn't even get upset. Like she's just like laying out the facts. And you're like, she's raised 5 kids. She's married for 20 plus years. She's done all these things. And then she comes out and she's like, look, here's the truth. And she starts hitting you with it. And when you start tying into the fact that like Anton LaVey was a feminist and that certain sects of the feminist movement came from the Luciferian movement and all these things that are literal facts. Like I listened to, this is one of those podcasts I listened to, and then I went back and researched the things that she said, and it's all true.
Yeah.
And you're like this is evil. Like this is horrible. This is it. And here's what she said, man, that blew my mind. And this is what really got me, is she's like, the whole lie that feminism sells is to give women options, right? But it actually limits their options. And she started breaking down how after you carve off being a mother, being you can't be a mother, you can't be a Christian, you can't be any of these things as a feminism, you really don't have much you can do other than just be a man-hating, like
man-hating protester,
anti, and she goes, what she did say was funny. She was like, these blue hair protesters that you see out here, these are the old feminists that are bitter because they didn't have families and children and husbands and didn't do anything with their lives. So they've latched on to the last thread of whatever psychotic belief they have. And they're just losing their minds because they don't have anything left. And she, I was like, wow. I was like, because I've studied feminism and not feminism in people, but the movement of feminism.
Oh, yeah.
First wave, second wave, third wave.
We talked about it here.
And we talked about it here. But she, like, when I say she literally like excavated all the layers of how horrible it is. And when she was done, there was no human on the planet that was going to be able to argue with her. Like and you know what really was so great? It came from a traditional woman. I was like, wow, way too,
well, good
Batman
for her, man.
1960s kapow somebody.
I listen. I haven't listened to that one yet. I saw that came up in my feed, but see, I don't get a lot of time to listen to podcasts.
I don't either, man.
Like most of my work day isn't where I'm actually like independently working on stuff. It's I'm on meeting. I'm in meetings all flipping day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's really not like I don't really do that during work. I don't like listening to that stuff while I'm working out. I don't like it. I really like to focus on what I'm doing when I'm working out.
Yeah.
And then occasionally, if it's just me on a walk and it's just me, which is rare because most of the time I'm dragging my kids or whatever. Yeah. I will listen to a podcast when I take a walk on Tuesday or Thursdays or the weekend. But generally speaking, most of the time I just don't. And then if I'm on a long car ride, like actually me and the wife listen to we listened to Sean Ryan's show a little bit in the truck when we were on the way to an archery tournament this week. A little bit. You can't really do it too much because there's Sean Ryan and has a way of dropping F-bombs. You can't really do that with the kids in there sometimes.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Love him to death, but
yeah. Same thing with actually Jonathan Frakes was like dropping F-bombs too, which was weird. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so there's that. You talk about kids, so I guess that's a good thing to segue into.
I don't think there's a good segue.
There's not.
For this topic,
there's well, and it's. I'm so tired of hearing about it. Yet I'm so disgusted that I'm still hearing about it with there not being. And that's the Epstein stuff.
Yeah. It's become a political performance at this point.
I just think it's ridiculous. Like, I don't care. I don't care what side of the aisle anybody is. I don't care what position they are. If there's sufficient evidence that they have found, which is there, I would say that's it. There is, what was it? Okay, let's talk about this. So DOJ dropped heavily redacted files on December 19th, right? That was after the Transparency Act was passed, right? And let's see, 500 pages completely blacked out, 16 files quietly removed overnight, which was weird. January 30th was when they released 3 million pages, bro.
Yeah.
What are you what in the what? Right? And then 180,000 images, 2,000 videos were released, right? Then they were like, no, that's it. The DOJ. Oh, no. But they identified 6 million pages and only released half of them.
Well, to be somewhat fair to that part of it, how many pages didn't really have anything on them? Like how many, like, okay, so you have 6 million pages. You don't know how many of those were partial pages. You don't know how many of those didn't really have anything on them or names on them. I mean, think about it.
But there were still
3 million pages, bro.
I don't think, okay, maybe there wasn't, we still, yeah, well, think about that for a second. You had 3 million pages about an investigation in the heinous stuff that was going on.
Yes. Why
did you need 3 million pages of things in order, and you didn't do anything? Okay, hold on, I'll get to that in a minute. Mm-hmm. But they were still withholding FBI victim interview statements. They were withholding a draft indictment from the 2007 Florida investigation and hundreds of thousands of Epstein emails. That was still being left out in that January 30th dump.
Okay. I have a question. I'll do a devil's advocate question.
No, go ahead, buddy, because we got to talk about this.
This is a devil's advocate question. And I ask this question simply because is there, you know, and the only reason I say this is they were talking to a former FBI investigator, and they asked him why they hadn't released a lot of the stuff that they released, and he said a distinct possibility is that there are still open investigations.
Correct.
And that they don't want to release certain names of certain people because they're still trying to build cases. Do you think that that's relevant?
I do think it's relevant. I will say, though, that if by 6 million pages you have not built the case, there's something wrong.
Well, and that's true. And
how long has this been going on, bro?
Well, it has. Over a decade. It's been going on a long time. But here's what bothers me about the Epstein thing. He's a piece of garbage. We both know that. He's dead, and I'm glad. Sorry. You got what you got.
Well, look, he met God, and they sorted it out, I'm sure.
You got, bro, after being a terribly acidic, venomous human being that took advantage of underage kids and created a list of victims larger than any serial killer I've ever seen. But here's what really bothers me about this. And it took me a while to think about this. After you said we wanted to talk about this a little bit, I was like, okay. But then something else popped into my head. And I was like, okay, so Epstein was terrible. And so was Diddy. We managed to put Diddy in jail in under a year.
Yeah. Didn't take long.
I won't even get into the fact that he was dismissed of tons of charges that he was actually guilty of. And I won't even begin to get into the conversation about how wealth will get you out of a whole lot of trouble. But where's the outrage from the left and the right about Diddy's victims? About the women that he beat, about the people that he blackmailed, about the money that he stole from his business partners and used to have horrifyingly illegal sex parties all over the United States. I'll tell you where the outrage is. It's in their pocket. And the reason it's in their pocket is Diddy didn't have any political weight. He had a lot of celebrity weight, but he didn't have any political weight. So they couldn't put on political lawfare over Diddy.
They could over Epstein.
They could over Epstein. And that's why he's still being talked about. And I think the thing that bugs me even more about all this is that let's take all the lawfare out of it and the fact that our government, right and left, have absolutely failed in this. Mm-hmm. Like, and Kash Patel, Pam Bondi, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, they all share blame.
All of them.
All of them do.
Trump,
all of them. Because this has been so poorly mishandled that I don't even think if we wanted to prosecute anybody right now, it would be easy or possible.
Well, considering this goes all the way back to Obama.
Yeah, this goes all the way back to Obama.
I think. I can't trace it. Dude, it's been going on so long. Anyway.
You know, we're literally just using this as leverage to sway voters at this point. Like nobody's going to go to jail. Let's be honest. Bill Clinton's not going to go to jail. Hillary Clinton's not going to go to jail.
She's already lied, by the way.
Yeah. Donald Trump's not going to go to jail. Melania Trump's not going to go to jail. None of the political figures in that Senate are going to go to jail. And here's why. Because they've waited too long and lost too much time, and there's too much doubt that's been sown. They're never going to be able to put a jury together because everybody's polluted by this. Nobody's able to escape it. You would literally have to be like an incel hermit that lived in a hole in the ground not to know what this is. So we've ruined any possibility of prosecution. So the thing that bothers me is we re-victimize these people every single time his name comes up in the news. There has to be a point when we go, it's probably not good anymore that we beat this drum because we've lost the battle. The man's dead. Ghislaine Maxwell's in a Cadillac prison where she gets to walk around all day and eat good food, and she's not really paying a heavy price. If you ask me, she should have been hung in a public square, honestly. I feel that way. I don't. Any person who takes advantage of a child, you don't deserve the life you have.
Okay,
but besides that,
yeah,
we continually re-victimize all these people. So when do we say enough is enough?
But okay, my thing is, I will continue to be outraged by the Epstein stuff because there is nothing being done, and I will not let that go because it's such a heinous thing that still needs to be that people need to still keep in mind that this is the kind of horse shit that the governments and these people in power have done and still continue to do. And this kind of stuff should not be allowed in our society whatsoever. It's our civilization should absolutely just say, if you do this, I don't care what it is, but this is appalling. And the Epstein Files show, and it's disgusting what's in there about what they've done to the kids and everything else. It is absolutely no. If I were any person involved in that, and I had anything of that, no one would be alive.
Yeah,
I would have been so mad if I would have freaking. And I'm saying, like, I guess I'm just saying I'm outraged by this because you have bullshit like this, like Sydney Sweeney wearing jeans on the red carpet has more outrage than this freaking crap.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Now, granted, you got people that are resigning and all this kind of stuff, sure.
Yeah, but they're not resigning because they're going to go to jail.
No.
They're resigning because
the companies are forcing
them to, and they're giving them big buyouts so that they'll resign. And like this, none of them are resigning in shame. They're taking their big buyout and they're leaving.
Prince Andrew's probably the biggest one, I guess, he's been disowned and all that stuff.
Which I will say, at least some kudos to the British government for being like, nah, dude.
Well, and his family. They literally said
they're all no longer. You're a pervert. You can't be in this family.
No,
we're disowning you. I mean, at least you can give a little bit of kudos to that. But I think what this does is, and I think the biggest thing that this spotlights is, we don't have any empathy for victims anymore.
No, well, and that brings up a good point. One of the things that really made me mad when I was reading through some of this stuff to see just how it was mishandled was their lack of caring or diligence in who they redacted and who they didn't redact. They had actual kids' names and stuff in it. They did not redact and shown and stuff. They had all this. They completely got it backwards on this. I mean, this is such a callous demonstration of incompetency. Oh my goodness, dude. That's where I'm at. I am so mad.
I don't even think it's competency, man. I think it's the most
apathy,
the most bright and flaming example of a lack of accountability and a lack of empathy and a lack of justice in our country that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like period, top to bottom.
This is depravity, bro.
And it's not even really about Giuffre Epstein anymore. Like, right? No. The man's dead. He's not going to go to prison. He's not going to pay a price. I hope his death was painful. That's all I can say. Well, but one person is going to wind up in jail for this, and that's Ghislaine Maxwell. Nobody else is going to prison. And if they do, it will be for a very short period of time, and it will be a token move to satiate their weak-willed.
That is where and this is really where it is because of what we stand for, Brian. Like the idea that we are men, we are meant to protect and uphold and be the leaders of our households and our communities, and we see this nonsense in our community, and yet we're more outraged at what Oprah said or what Sydney Sweeney wore or all this stuff than we are about this crap.
And here's the thing. I don't care what any celebrity does. Even in the most, and look, I love music and I love to listen to music and I love to read about music and I love to learn about music and I love to investigate music and look at the history of it. I don't care about any of them. Like, I don't really, like, they're not, I'm not, I think this, I think we've reversed it. It used to be hero worship, idolization. Oh, this person is great, and this is why I want to talk about them. Now it's, we suck. We don't have anything that we stand for, so let's tear everyone else down with us. And by doing so, we've unshackled everyone from any level of accountability. And I feel like this is this whole, back when the whole transgender movement started to move forward, the conversation about minor attracted.
Oh God.
That started. And that's not the first time. That actually came up. If you look back, that first time that conversation popped up was in the early 80s.
It was. And
it keeps, like, it'll duck for a decade and then it'll pop up. I think that all this is an attempt to deregulate us to the point where we think everything is okay. And by what I mean by everything is okay is just do whatever you want. You're good.
Well, again, we're repeating the same path as all the other civilizations that have fallen.
Like the Romans are a great example. Like
it's not just, Empire. It's over and over again.
The Persian Empire,
everything.
Alexander the Great, all of them
depraved,
ridiculous people. Yeah. Right. So,
but I guess the thing is, like, we're talking this has been, it was 2007 when Epstein got that slap on the wrist and immunity for all this other crap and everything. That was appalling already. And you're almost 20 years ago, you had Virginia Giuffre, who fought for years as a victim to try to get all this stuff, brought to justice and everything else. And she ended up questionable circumstances. Don't even go. No, that was absolutely, she didn't take her own. That's something else. I don't care what you say. And I'm just floored. And like the Sound of Silence movie, with Tim Ballard in it, that about his stuff and everything else. I just challenge any freaking man with a spine, watch that and not be outraged about some of this stuff. Why would you not look at this Epstein crap and be like, it doesn't matter who they are. And look, public square, I don't care. Guillotine, I don't care. Yeah. They should not be allowed to be in society anymore.
I think anyone who hurts a child,
it's heinous.
You're finished, dude.
It's just freaking heinous.
You're stealing innocence at that point. And I think that there's nothing more valuable that is an object of theft than the innocence of a child. And you can say what you want about, and here's what's really made me mad is I've heard some voices, thankfully none from our government, but some of these influencer voices talking about, well, we don't know anything about these girls. Were they victims?
Look, as young as we're talking,
when 13 you're 13 years old, you're a victim, dude.
It doesn't matter.
I've heard people say, well, we don't really have a history on all the people that he claimed to traffic. No, it doesn't matter.
Look, if you're a disgusting Islamist,
if you're trafficked once, if you traffic one, somebody should hang you in the town square.
Yes. Well, and this, because I mean, what do we expect from this progressive liberal Marxist BS, dude. What do we expect? Depravity. Because this is the same people who are trying to lift up. They're wearing hijabs, right?
Yeah.
When Iran just is celebrating the streets right now because the Ayatollah's gone.
Because Trump basically liberated them from tyranny.
Because these Islamic people are, man, I am so sick of, look, I am anti-Muslim. Let me be straight flat out here. Anti-Muslim. If you are a Muslim, we have a problem. Now, that doesn't mean I wish you harm. That does not mean I wish that you should be censored. That does mean, though, that we have a problem. There is a definite...
Any religion that encourages you to marry preteen.
Yes. That was where I was going.
Any religion that encourages you to beat your wife. It tells you that you're allowed to beat your wife. Any religion... Anything. If you came to me and said, hey, man, I'm going to start a religion. We're going to call it Schmoogla. But one of the tenets of my religion is anytime your wife sasses you, you can just beat the crap out of her. I'm going to be like, I don't want to be a part of you or Schmoogla, bro.
The thing is, done. Muhammad married a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
Tell me how that works.
There's many marriages right now with 9-year-olds and all that stuff in Islamic driven countries and stuff. Get out of here. You are demonic and you need some Jesus, bro.
You're a pervert.
Anyway, don't care. Come find me if you want to protest.
Yeah, if you want to argue, argue marrying 9-year-olds, I invite you on this show.
Please,
let's have that argument.
Yeah.
I would love. I ain't gonna hurt you. I'll sit you right down here between me and Reggie, and we can have that conversation. And I can promise you, when we're done, you're gonna regret ever believing in that religion because I'm gonna tear it to shreds.
Anyway. Here's the thing. Romans 1:28, God gave them over to a debased mind. A culture that scrolls past this but loses it over denim has a seared conscience. The thing is, in Romans, he's talking to this is exactly we talked about. We just said Rome had the same problem. Well, Paul speaks about it plainly in Romans.
He does.
But this is way foretold, though, that that in Isaiah 5:20, woe to those who call evil good and good evil. And that's the thing. We're not even calling it good. We're just ignoring it, which is kind of the worst. It's like this whole like, this whole like I think apathy is worse than like actually having the calling it good, to be honest.
It is.
That just means you don't care. And this is what we should never not care about something like this ever. And I don't even know what to do about it. Because here's the thing. I think we've gotten so far down this depraved power, political, cultural, greedy BS with these cabal freaking people and this goes really back to where we're talking about the whole institutional capture of everything and how this ideology has just freaking infiltrated I'm appalled. Because it all comes from a demonic place. Every single bit of this comes from a demonic place, bro.
It is a kind of evil that is repulsive to the eye. That's the kind of evil it is. Let's not talk about the repulsivity of it spiritually or morally or emotionally, but it's something that I don't even want to look at, dude. Like my eyes are repulsed by looking at it. And that's, to me, that's like the 4-tier double-decker bacon sandwich of evil. Like that's
it's just our way our culture looks at it too, man, and how we respond. And but to be honest, this really goes into what you wanted to talk about, though. The moral conscience of the culture, if we're awake or not, if we can even see good or bad, if we call it good or bad, then what are we doing with our worship, and how is that being really portrayed, and what are we doing, man? And there has been an ideological capture inside worship music in the Christian realm.
Well, I think more than anything, and as I've studied this and I went through, I read about this, went through decades of the changes within worship and within the church, and this doesn't just touch on worship. We're going down the avenue of worship, but this touches on, the
child attendance,
preaching style, church attendance, all those things. I think what we have is we have an entertainment captured worship service. And this is what I mean. If I was to go to 5 different churches that had more than 150 members right now, I guarantee you that I would hear probably more than likely
same song.
80% of the songs they sing would be the same ones the rest of them are singing.
Yep.
They're dispassionate in their delivery. They're performative. They're not, there's no originality. There's no, one of the things that I've always wondered is, all of these musicians that say, well, I'm inspired by Christ. Well, then use that inspiration to bring something originally Christ-driven to the table. If you're inspired, right? Spiritual, Holy Spirit inspiration brings some of the greatest creativity when a person opens themselves up to it. My question becomes, if that's who we are, if that's our culture, if our worship culture is supposed to be a culture of praising God and using our gifts for God, and your gift is worship, why are you doing other people's worship? And now don't get me wrong, like I love a good cover of the old Rugged Cross sometimes. It's good to hear some of the old stuff. Hey, I get moved from time to time by a Christian rendition of something. I'll be honest with you, man. I love the hard fought hallelujah from Jelly Roll. I think it's a great song. It gives me a very spiritual feeling when I listen to it. But when I go to a church and I go to a worship service and they're like, here we go, here's the next Hillsong thing, bring, and all of a sudden it's Spirit lead me when I deep dive in the ocean and thank you for not drowning me. I'm so tired of hearing that song.
Dude, I love oceans, man.
I do, but everybody's got their version.
It's a great song.
Everybody's got their version. And dude, there's a million other things you could be doing with your gifts, man. You could be inspiring worship. And I think maybe it's me. Maybe I'm jaded. Like maybe I've not heard anything that moves me. I don't know.
You can't. It's not that you can't. I shouldn't say that. That's a wrong phrase to say. I am much more liable to be in that scenario than you.
Why do you say that?
And I say that because being a musician in the church, playing almost every weekend for the last, 15 years. Yeah. I mean, dude, it's crazy.
Here's a good point though. Let's go. There's a great documentary out, and I encourage anybody to watch it. And the documentary is called Jesus Music. And what the whole documentary is about the beginning and the full movement of the Christian contemporary movement starting back in the 1960s.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, you want to know why Newsboys and DC Talk and Stephen Curtis Chapman and all of these contemporary Christians got so big? Because they brought something to the table that no one had brought before.
Well, you're correct, but we got to understand that you made a good point here about there has been a capture though of the industry.
There has, yes.
So if you're a new artist, mm-hmm. right, and it reflects the same way in secular. So basically, what's happened is like the Christian music scene is pretty much mirrors the secular one. There's really no difference in how they operate anymore.
Yeah, very much.
So it doesn't matter if you have this heartfelt song that's great or whatever, or how good you are. If you don't come from Bethel or Hillsong or Elevation or, Phil Wickham, forget it. It's not going to happen. Yeah. They're not interested in what you do.
And there are still guys out there doing a good job. 1,000 Foot Crutch, Lecrae.
Sure. But Lecrae's very commercial, and I don't agree with a lot of come on, man.
It's still original.
But let me say this about that. Some people are songwriters and some people are not.
Yeah.
It's writing a good song is an art form all on its own.
Yeah.
Okay. So being there's far more musicians than there are songwriters.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this question based on what you just said.
Yeah.
Okay. Every person I believe is creative in their own way.
Sure,
right. I believe everybody has a creative spark.
Of some way, yeah.
I know you, and you have a very creative spark.
Correct.
When you began to be a musician, did you walk up to a single instrument and go, I'm going to learn this song, I'm going to learn this instrument, and I'm not going to learn anything else? And I'm just going to play this over and over again in hopes? No. You went up to it and said, this is a fun instrument. I'm going to learn to play this. And then as you learn to play it, you said, oh, well, because your original instrument was
clarinet, saxophone.
Clarinet and saxophone. And then you got into drums. You got into percussion. And then you started playing in bands, and you learned classic rock, and you learned heavy metal, and you learned bop, and you learned all these things, right? Mm-hmm. Because you wanted to expand your ability to be creative inside of that to some level. And then you and your brothers got together and made, by the way, you need to post that in this. Guys, I still listen to it all the time. I listen to it when I'm working out. It's amazing. Like, they made a great, no lyrics, just rock. Amazing. Which I feel like is a pinnacle of creativity, right? So I'm not saying that everybody's going to be a master songwriter, but when did mimicking someone else become a mastery of something? Does that make sense?
I know, but like that gets into a lot of, okay, you got to understand though, that it is a whole like avenue of talent to be able to play somebody else's stuff well. And what I mean by that is because you have recording musicians that have based their whole career on playing something the way somebody else wants it played, not by what they really want it played.
Which is a valid career.
Right. And then you have people who still make a living off of these like copycat bands and stuff. Like they play they're like trying to be exactly like Led Zeppelin, and they
Brit Floyd would be a great example, right? They tour the world and make millions of dollars playing
because
Pink Floyd.
They do a great job of imitating Pink Floyd, right? So I mean, there's all this kind of stuff, but I think where we're at with Christian music is like once and I don't remember the artist. I really can't remember. Once they found this formula for their songs, and there is a definite formula for a modern contemporary Christian worship song. It has like a slow build, then there's like a bridge that happens that builds back up into the chorus. The chorus goes back down into the end softly. That's actually, I mean, that's a very high level, but every freaking contemporary Christian worship song follows the same damn thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's this tonality and everything else they use. It's all a formula. So once they found that, it's now everything is that. And it's been that way for like freaking 15, 20 years.
Fair enough.
Right?
Yeah.
When that was like, ooh, we can be emotionally stimulating this way. We can manipulate them this way. We can do this. This is all going to work, and we can make it, they'll want to hear it more. So that's what they did. They just copied this freaking formula over and over and over and over, and they still do. And at the same token, you have these vehicles for these churches that are larger that have made it their goal to music is the way to lead people into their organizations via financially and physically. That's what they're doing. And there are a lot of these are not okay organizations. It's not, I don't believe, it's not like all the artists that actually perform under Bethel believe the same thing Bethel does. But Bethel certainly needs, like as a church, should be disbanded and just no more. There should not be that's how heretical they are now. And the heinous crap that they've actually done. They should absolutely not be an entity anymore. Just saying. And yes, I have a strong opinion about that. I don't really care to hear yours. That's how I feel about that. Things like Hillsong and Elevation, I have very strong feelings about those. It's the same thing. You can have a ladder of severity there, but whatever. The point being is that there's like 4 or 5 major different like entities that have all these different ones underneath, and so it's kind of like corporate America where you have like all these name brands and stuff, but they're all owned by like 6 companies.
Yeah.
That's how the Christian music works. You have Passion and all this other Jesus culture and, vertical, all these different worship things that you think are individual, whatever. No, they'll report up to like 4 or 5 different entities.
Yeah.
That's really how it is. Now, when I'm playing, okay, matter of fact, it depends on where I'm playing at and who I'm playing with and for. And I say that because some people are very open for you being you and playing you and just Spirit leads you do it. You have another section of people who are like, you really need to play exactly what's on the album.
Yeah.
I don't want any variation.
Yeah.
And so, and that's a lot of bigger churches, a lot of stuff like that, where they have everything programmed, and it's like it's a to the minute kind of service orientation, and everything else.
Yeah.
This.
Very tightly programmed.
Yes, I have a big problem with that too. But how else are you going to do that if you have like a sermon that's streamed across like 20 campuses, and everything's got to go the same speed, and it's kind of dumb. Anyway,
Let's talk about statistics for a minute.
Let's get to statistics.
Let's talk about some statistics, some key points, right? So 69% of in-person church attenders say they're extremely or very satisfied with the music. That's from the Pew Research 2022.
But I looked at that study. It's really not a very good study.
Well, it's not. And there's some other things that kind of pop up in these statistics that are very telling.
But I mean, but they only did 11,377 adults,
Yeah.
and they weren't really spread out that much, and it was kind of a stupid.
Yeah.
So I'll just say that. Yes, that's what they said, but that was kind of lame.
52% of people watching services online say the same, a 17-point drop. Take away the in-room experience, and the music doesn't hold up on its own. Only about 5% of Americans actually attend church weekly.
Based on cell phone. I thought that was
data.
illuminating.
Far below the 22% who claim they do. So 17% of people are lying about going to church, which that's a whole different episode. 54 million Americans listen to Christian gospel music several times a week or more. That was done from the Gospel Music Association. 62% of Christian music listeners are under 50, millennials and Gen X, GMA 2024. So here's the question. If 69% say they are satisfied, why do so many people privately complain?
Because they're not. Look, there's a difference between like saying, and I think this comes back to the culture that we're in. We're expecting an awful lot. Okay. And I don't think you should not. I mean, this is kind of where, I've been kind of ostracized a little bit in music pretty much.
I think we expect far too little from churches.
But I'm on the other end.
Yeah.
Okay. So even when I have volunteers and stuff and all this stuff in worship, I expect them to take worship seriously. And I expect them to, when they show up to a worship rehearsal, they've given it the
proper reverence.
There you go. Proper reverence and the importance that I think that we fall short no matter how we do it. And they've listened to the songs. They've actually, done some work on the songs or whatever, so that we don't have, there is that reverence that comes to it. And I'll tell you this, 9 times out of 10, it's never the case, right?
Yeah.
I think that's where we're at in our current culture, is the reverence for the worship is missing. You have a few people who are trying to pull it out of individuals.
Yes.
To make something happen.
Yes.
But it's the mass, both and I'm talking the whole body of Christ. It's a massive reverence problem. You also have the fake worshiper stuff going on too, where some of that 69% you're talking about are satisfied. They're the ones maybe with their hands up in the air during the church service and stuff like that, and just trying to get into the music. But that's what they're doing. They're only getting into the music and not actually having a real experience with the God in heaven.
Which we're gonna come back to that, because that borns another question, right? That borns another kind of side of this that I wonder about. And I take it back to, for some reason, a lot of what we talk about goes back to this singular experience you and I had when we went to men's anti-abortion rally. Cannot tell you how bizarre that experience was, but we'll go in and we're going to use part of that. You and I heard some interesting worship music during that.
Honestly, it
was actually good.
That was worth every bit of listening to that other ridiculous stuff.
The music that they used, it was different. It had different rhythm. It had a much more
masculine tone. It was very masculine.
And I'm not saying that, you just want, that's all, Jesus thing about. No, I'm not like, no. But I'm just saying it was a different view of things, right? And I appreciated it because I felt like they weren't placating to me at that point. I felt like they were like, we're going to put this really cool, awesome worship music up and let everybody feel the vibe.
Well, for one, it was one guy with a guitar. It wasn't like a full band or whatever.
Yeah.
It wasn't like this full production or whatever.
Yeah.
It was just a crowded room of dudes singing these hymns.
Yeah. And they were almost hymn-like.
Well, they were hymns.
They were, but it was just a different rhythm altogether, you know. But here's something else too. And this is part of this that I think we need to talk about. And you kind of struck on this a second ago, and I don't want to leave it before we talk about it. And that is, there's a difference between going to church and singing and the act of worship. And I think a lot of people go to church and sing because they like the song, or they want to fit in, or whatever their reason is. And I don't know. I don't want to judge any individual, period. I don't know your reasons for acting out your worship the way you do, but I do know plenty of people that I have met that it's a very performative moment for them. Like, and I don't think that worship should be performative.
But I think that goes into when you have 5% that actually go to church every week, then you have only a fraction of those that are actually
impacted by the worship.
Yeah.
So how would we differentiate, like, you as an individual, Reggie, in your experiences worshiping, when does worship impact you the most when you're doing it?
Okay. If I got to step back and say this, me playing during the church service is but a very small bit of my worship.
Yeah.
I consider that to be when I'm leading worship, right? So I can't not only be worshiping, but I need to be leading others to worship. Okay?
Yeah.
It's a big difference. Throughout the week throughout time before that, and my worship is, how am I preparing my heart? Have I really been, what did I give glory to God for this today? Like the songs I got to play this week, like, have I heard them before? Do I need to check it out? Is there something I can improve on? Is there whatever? There's always a yes to those answers. And it's like, what have I prayed about? Have I prayed about the service? Have I prayed about how I'm going to do? Have I prayed for my leadership in the church?
Yeah.
What service have I been? How good of a husband and a dad have I been? All of that is my worship.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then that needs to translate into my leading worship on a Sunday. Now, and I'm not the one speaking, but the drums is back there, and it's the foundation which all the other music is usually standing on. If my worship that I'm leading is laying down that foundation in a way that is solidified in my worship that I've done previously in order to lead it, that is so solid, and it can't be toppled down.
I think that's a very good point. Everything that we do in our lives is a form of worship. And I think that's another thing that frustrates me is when we walk out into the world and, you know, you got the people that are like, oh, Lord, such glory thine have and bequeath me. And then all of a sudden they're like, F all y'all, I'm going out here and smoke some crack and beat my wife. No, that's an extreme example. But what I'm saying is, I think that's part of it too, is that's what makes a lot of worship disingenuous. But, you know, let's move on to the next point, because I think all of this is going to build to what we're talking about, right? And the next point is,
well, hold on before you do that. Let me just say this, Brian. You talked about performative. Okay. When you have the videos of these songs that you're going to listen to by Hillsong, whatever, and they are performative in nature.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. Washed by, I think it's an Elevation group, right?
Okay.
I hate I cannot stand the video.
Why is that?
It is so performative. You're like watching these people play, and they're jumping in circles and running around, and it's over the top performance. It is so over the, and I'll say this: so over the top performative that like it just detracts from the actual words that they're singing. You get distracted by the manipulation and everything. Now the song's fine. But again, that's what I'm saying. I don't watch the video. I can't watch it because it detracts from the whole song.
I'll give you a great example of a worship moment that both broke me and elevated me at the same time. And this is a long time ago. I think I was 17 years old. I just started to figure out what church was and Christianity was. And, you know, again, if anybody ever wants to talk to me about my past or what I've gone through, this is all kind of folds in. I was at Six Flags in Atlanta, and there was a music festival called Christ Fest that was going on, and the headliner was DC Talk. Newsboys were there. Stephen Curtis Chapman was there. Amy Grant, I think, was there. There was like tons of artists for 2 days. And I was exhausted. We had been there. I probably hadn't slept for 2 days. We went to every single concert. We didn't sleep. We would go back to the camp and sing the songs and carry on. We were having a great time. And there was a song off of the Jesus Freak album called What If I Stumble? And Toby Mac walked out on stage with another member, sat down with an acoustic guitar, shut all the lights down except for the one that was on them, and then told the story behind why he wrote the song, and they sang it acoustically, and it broke me.
Oh, that'll do it.
But it broke me because it was the first time ever they had turned off the guitars, they had turned off the effects, and I was listening to him sing, and I realized at that moment, if I was going to accept my faith, I had to accept the fact I was broken.
That's it. Yeah.
And for the first time ever, those two people met. And dude, it makes me emotional now.
Yeah, I bet.
It destroyed me. But at the same time, it just filled me with hope. I was like, I am broken, but I'm still saved, right? I'm broken, but it doesn't mean that I'm over.
Yeah.
And I was almost angry when that performance was over. I was like, dude, I need you to play for a few more hours so I can work this out. But it stuck with me all my life. Not that performance. You could have sent Snoopy and, Droopy out there to sing it. It wouldn't have mattered. It was that moment where God opened me up and went, all right, you want to know what it means? I'm going to show you what it means. And he took away all the noise and said, here's what it means. And it literally destroyed me at the same time that it built me up.
And I will say that's really what should happen. There is a definite sense of yourself being set aside for his glory, right? It's the ego having a conflict with the spirit.
Yeah.
And that's the way it should be. And so along that lines, Brian, like I know when I went to, but actually with Michael Bain, we went to a pastor conference at the Southern Baptist Seminary, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're in their main hall, whatever, and we're waiting on before they get started. He goes, okay, we're going to sing some hymns, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to understand, this is a whole room full of men.
Full of dudes.
Pastors, though.
Yeah.
Or leadership, right?
Pastoral dudes.
And so we start singing a hymn. And it was I've never experienced that before. Because these were people that were so intentional with their leadership. I mean, they're there. These aren't just church attenders. These are people who try to make it happen.
These are men of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now you had this hymn going on, and it was like, I mean, you couldn't help it. There's no offense, but it was incredible. And that was an amazing, just to the two songs that they sang, man, was freaking insane.
Yeah.
I went to a retreat with when I was at Southeast. They had a worship team retreat that they would do sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Hey, dude, whenever we'd be all sitting there, and it's a big team, by the way, huge. And you got singers and guitar players and bass players and drummers and all that, everybody's in there. And they're just like, hey, well, let's worship a little bit. and they'd start singing, right? Mm-hmm. That was a freaking totally different worship experience. Because you have the whole staff who is intentional. And like, not only are they, because this is a mega church, so like you have really high quality people there too, as musicians and vocalists, but the intention, it was like there. The reverence was there. The idea that I'm not of this earth, but I'm here.
Yeah, I'm at the next stop, but I'm not home yet.
Oh man, it was incredible, dude. And then but the one I will say this: I went to a Jesus Culture conference, and I don't know, that room was charged, bro. Mm-hmm. But I will say this, and this goes to what I think I don't remember if you made this point or not, but I'm going to make it. The way that these things are performed, okay, so you already spoke about how there's a formula for the songs and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be as manipulative as possible. That's not just there. It doesn't stop there. The tones of the instruments, the lighting that's used, how the concerts go, all that stuff it's intentionally, because music is an emotional experience. It can be and it should be. And so you're talking about a formulaic way to heighten and do that. Jesus Culture can do that very, very, very well. So, and it's for me, who's an experienced musician, who's played very large arenas and stuff like that. Well, I shouldn't. It's not like I've played for Metallica or anything. That's not really true. But I could play large venues and stuff. Like when I was listening to them, like I got caught. I mean, you just got caught up in it because it was so good. Like you were just like, and you were just taken aback. Yeah. And the whole rest of the room was like just whatever. It was probably one of the few times in my life I've actually felt like singing, which I don't. I don't sing at all. I don't like singing whatsoever.
I don't mind singing. I don't. There's something to sing to.
I don't. Right?
But here's another example, and you didn't even know I was there for this. Was the men's thing at Southeast, the wild game thing where they had the guy from 13 Hours? I was moved there because I'm looking around at a couple thousand men.
Well, there was 12,000
who were on their feet,
or 11,000,
and were clapping and worshiping. You guys were singing "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey, and I was like, this is what worship should be like. Not that it was all men, but it was this, we're just all going to move together. Let's just move together, right? Let's not. And also, I do have to say that there are a lot of people that haven't had the hard worship experience. What I mean by that is they haven't been in that moment yet where all the noise gets stripped away and they hear the purity of it. But and here's the thing too. I don't want to beat up on worship pastors. Risk aversion is a thing, right? They're under a ton of worship leaders are under heavy pressure from like senior pastors and congregants to sing songs that they want to hear. Play something unfamiliar and you can feel the congregation stiffen up. Familiarity goes away. But I find that in every situation that I've been in where I've had that high worship experience, it may not have been a different song, but it was a different approach, right? I've heard "They Old Rugged Cross" 1,000 times, but if the person who's singing it is in that depth of worship while they're singing, you tend to go with them, right? So I don't want to pick on worship leaders because that's not what I mean to do by this. I realize that there's a very big fear inside of churches that if we don't do what every other church is doing, we're not going to have what every other church has.
Well, I know. And that's so not true because I get how churches struggle anyway. Like there's, we're fortunate to be in an area of the country where there is like there's churches everywhere and there's good churches, but some, in a lot of places in even this country, there's like one church in the, within driving distance.
Yeah.
It's just not, that's where we're at, right? Here, there's like a church every
150 yards.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. And I guess trying to keep your church supported, and like, how do you? I mean, because at the end of the day, they're trying to pay the bills too.
Yeah.
They're still there by faith, but it's not that doesn't mean they don't have.
You still got to keep the lights on.
Yeah,
still got to keep the water running.
So right? Like you're trying to get how can we use worship better to not only just have a better worshipful experience, but how do we how does that get more members into our butts in the seats kind of thing? I mean, that still has to be a thing.
Well, I think a lot of it is, I think maybe, and stick with me when I say this, because I know this is going to sound kind of weird, but I use, for an example, let's take it for example, Sly and the Family Stone, right? Let's take Dance to the Music by Sly and the Family Stone. I don't care who you are. When the breakdown comes in that song, you're tapping your foot. You're going, because Sly's got it happening, man. And he's got the horns and the drum, and he's doing the rhythm and the beat. I first think that one formulation is we need to stop mourning our existence and pining for God's return through our worship. I think a lot of times we get lost in, we're going to sing this song about how, I want the Holy Spirit to move within me and prepare me to go home. That's not biblical. That's you in some weird way mourning the fact that you're here. Well, I think first in worship, we need to stop and realize that if you're in this building and you believe that God is God and that everything is within the plan, that you're in this building for a reason, right? And it ain't to get together and talk about when he's coming. So instead of looking at worship as this way of, well, I'm just going to sing about my desire to go be with the Lord. How about we sing about our desire to live that joyous life that God wants us to live, and that mission of going out into the world and taking that joy to other people. And the reason I say that is this. I was in a church one time. This has been a while back, but I laughed when I heard it because it rang so true. I went to church with a guy that lived next door to me, and I invited him to go to the church I was going to. So we went to this church, and I don't know if the worship leader just woke up that morning just mourning, but he woke up and it was the saddest 5 worship songs I've ever heard in my life. I was like, dude, are you okay? And when we were leaving, the guy with me goes, well, the sermon was good. He goes, but I had to take a Prozac after the worship.
Yeah, that's not cool.
And I was like, and I laughed out loud, but I was like, wow, you're actually right. Like, and I get Oceans and those kind of songs. I get them. There's a place for them, right? But there's also a place for joy.
There is, man, but you got a lot of worship tunes now who say I and me too much as well.
Yeah, way too much.
So they're sure, and you need lamentations, and I think that's the thing about it's different, but that's different than what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There's the Psalms and where David is like really struggling with stuff, and he's letting it out, and why God have you forsaken me is just as valid of worship as I will give you all the glory. Those are both valid worship.
I think we forget though that David danced.
David did all kinds of stuff, bro. I mean, like
David, there was this great mix of joy and lamentations and proselytizing, but I feel like that combination has just vanished.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. I think it's about being transparent before the Lord. I think that's where we're at. We're not especially in this culture, we're afraid of being transparent. We're afraid of being bold. We're afraid of being who we are anymore, even to the God of the creator of the universe. Dude. Yeah. And I think that's what for me, when I look at Psalms, I see this as it doesn't matter if you're mourning or you're joyful or whatever. God wants you where you are right then fully. Don't hide. Don't try to be anything else. Give both to him equally in worship.
Well, and I think part of it too is we live in such a world where we're inundated with everything that's wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, you get social media.
We forget to stop and go, God, you are amazing. Like, you know, people ask me all the time, Brian, have you ever seen a miracle? Yeah, I saw my children be born. I see the sunset every day. I think part of this too is this, we've been so desensitized to the everyday miracles that we no longer celebrate them. Right? Like, correct. Like I feel like every time my kids smile and they're happy, that's a miracle.
Dude, we're spinning at like 22,000 miles an hour. And we're still standing on this rock.
I know. And there's all these things going on, and we tend to lose ourselves in what's negative. And when a culture becomes increasingly negative, I think the things that the culture practices becomes increasingly negative.
Well, yeah.
And I think that's kind of where a lot of the worship music is gone. But I don't want to make it sound hopeless either, right? Let's talk about what's missing from Sunday mornings, right? What's missing from Sunday mornings, Reggie? Lay it on me.
Authenticity is really where, if you're gonna ask me that question, authenticity is missing.
Okay.
And the reverence. We've already said. I think both of those things, those are what, if I had to pick two things, those two things. I'd also say that you can still be a performer and still worship in a reverent and authentic manner too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? I need to make that clear. I would put myself in that category sometimes. I just am. I've been doing this for too long to not be a performer, because that's just part of being a drummer. But yeah, I mean, I would say also too that the lack of importance on communion affects everything. So if you don't make communion a very pinnacle point of that experience, and that doesn't be every experience, but like if you're going to have communion and that's just kind of like, oh, here we are every, whatever, here's a cracker and here's some juice, meh. And it's like a meh thing, that's totally unacceptable. And that affects everything else.
Also, maybe not be like, and this was the flesh of our Lord, and we must consume it. And this is the blood of our Lord. Like, dude, this is the blood and the flesh of Christ. In reverence to him, let's celebrate that we have this opportunity, right?
But we're not actually eating his flesh and drinking his blood.
But you know what I'm saying.
That's the Catholic nonsense. That's just idiotic, because there's why would we be a cannibalist? And that just doesn't make any sense. By the way.
And
don't get down that rabbit hole.
Also, I encourage people to go look at all your worship music doesn't have to come from inside the four walls of the church. Go look at Christian rap, Christian metal, Christian rock, Christian country, contemporary Christian music. There's so much of it out there. So much good music out there. Like, a lot of guys out there are making solid Christian music.
I mean, there is. And I mean, even but again, my problem is it's like trying to sort through who owns what and what I'm paying attention to. But that, a good song is a good song. I mean, I'll say that.
Yeah.
But
it takes effort to write a good song, right? Like, I don't necessarily agree with Brandon Lake and all of his affiliations, but some of his songs are actually good.
Dude, a guy can sing, man. I mean,
he can, and he's wrote some really good songs, right? So
but again, like I don't listen to Elevation and like get Stephen Furtick is in the background saying something, and I'm like, that does actually detract from my worship experience, because it's like I don't want to hear his voice.
Well, I don't want to hear a heretic while I'm worshiping.
You don't.
Like, let's be clear. I don't want to hear a heretic while I'm worshiping. Like that'd be like, the devil giving a monologue while someone was preaching a sermon. I don't want to hear that. Just let me hear the sermon. Leave me alone. Right? Like, it doesn't work. But I mean, you know, and Christian alternatives have been around for a while too. I mean, you remember what was it, Striper?
Striper, yeah.
To Hell with the Devil, that's baby.
Right. To Hell with the Devil.
One of the like original Christian metal albums, dude. It's kind of hilarious because they all dress like retired bumblebees, but it was still an effort to bring faith-driven music into a genre, right?
There's other things out there, but like, until we break this monopoly of the half a dozen major things, I mean, it's still gonna be a problem. But I think there's always, look, regardless of who's doing the song, if the song is actually got good biblical theological roots, like there's the message in the song is gospel driven with Jesus at the center of it, and it's being performed with the right attitude, with with the reverence and the authenticity, that's where you want to start, I think. There's a lot more that should go into it. I could talk about worship teams for forever, but for people to worship, it's just about your heart. Remove yourself from the equation. Maybe attack that ego a little bit and put him above you.
Well, and also
see what happens.
Worship leaders, remember that you have. I don't want to say you have great power, because that's not true. You have great influence inside the church.
That's true.
And you help build the culture of your church. So if you're building a culture of true depth of worship, not only will your church follow, but local cultures will begin to follow, and eventually the larger cultures will follow.
Well, and not only that, the health of your church is going to be dramatically affected by your worship as well. Because look, younger people do not come to churches where they don't like the worship. Let's just be real.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're bringing something authentic and reverent and everything else like that, that's going to be you're impacting the whole life of your church. And especially and that's through your young people.
Yeah. And that part of that too is encourage your young people to attend church, right? Like I feel like a lot of times we're like, well, they're just young and they don't need to come to service.
Yeah, that's crap.
No, they do. They need to have some. I mean, I'm not saying they have to come to every single service. Maybe they got things going on in the youth group. Maybe they got things going on that they're doing service projects, but they do need to spend time in worship, and they do need to spend time in service, because that is a very large part of that diet of I'll call it Christian fiber is coming from, right? Like it's like a very big chunk of it's coming from there. But I go, John 4:23-24, true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth, not in formula, not in algorithm, in spirit and truth. Amos 5:23-24, take away from me the noise of your songs, but let justice roll down like waters. God connects worship directly to justice. You can't separate the two.
That's true, dude.
Yeah. So we covered a lot today, Reggie.
We did. Worship and Epstein.
Yeah.
What do you know?
Yeah. I did want to bring something up though. Kind of ties to this all together. You ever been kind of hit with a verse that you forgot about, and all of a sudden it kind of pops out at you? I got hit with this the other day, and that's Isaiah 40:31.
Okay.
And that's, God slowed me down to show me myself and then to rebuild me. Guys, our world is moving at such a frenetic pace, and with things like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and Snapchat, and I mean the list is endless. There's a new social media app popping up daily. If you're not hearing God, slow down. If you're not understanding the world, maybe it's not that the world's not it's not that you're not able to understand it. It's that you're moving too fast to comprehend it. In all of the times that God has taught me anything in my life, he has had to stop me so that I would listen. right? And I think that, let's look at Epstein, let's look at Diddy, let's look at all of it, all of the distractions, the Iran being bombed. Let's look at all of it, right? The greater tragedy in all this is that it's being used to keep us distracted and to keep us morally imbalanced. And I think that if we all just slowed down for a minute and maybe worship to God, maybe just stop and say, God, you know what? With all the crazy stuff going on, I just want to say thanks, man, because you've kept me and my family safe, and you've protected me and my family from it. Please continue to protect us from it. And sometimes that means protect you from the exposure of it.
True.
So just in the thought through all this, guys, turn off your phone, turn off your television, turn off your laptop, and go sit with the people that mean the most to you and just listen to them. A lot of times my wife will go, "You're not paying attention." I'll be like, "No, I'm just listening. Just listening. I hear you. I'm just listening." Because sometimes I want to hear that you're okay. I don't want to talk to you about you being okay. I want you to communicate with me, and I want to hear that you're doing what needs to be done. And that you have what you need. Like there's this, we have this 10-second mindset nowadays.
That's true.
We want it all in 10 or 15 seconds. Nothing of weight or worth will hit you in 10 or 15 seconds. It won't hit you in 10 or 15 seconds. It won't grow you. It won't develop you. It won't take you to another place. It'll literally be a fleeting dopamine hit, and then you're on to the next thing. So I would just encourage you guys. We talked about a lot today, but see the bigger picture. Slow your life down and start searching for that place of peace where you can see and understand everything that's going on. So, sorry, man. It just felt like that had to be said.
It didn't, but we'll let it slide.
That's why I love Reggie. Because even if he doesn't agree with me, he has no problem telling me.
Indeed.
Indeed.
We're Arbery Talks.
I'm Brian.
I'm Reggie.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.